Now, here's the question for you. Would you rather be right or happy? This is a very good question, very deep question, so let's get into it. So, being right or being happy? What's the difference? And two, why is it such an important question? So let's firstly start by stepping back. It's absolutely chucking it down here. Let's start by going back, more importantly, under a tree. So let's start by going back to the first part. Would you like to be right? Now, we all like to be right in an argument or trying to get our point across. Always, it's you know, we want to, if there's something that's wrong, it's human nature to correct and say, no, that's not that, it's that. So being right is, you could say, an important thing, possibly. It could also be the correct or the just thing to do, to be right. And so based on that, being right, thumbs up, that kind of wins the argument, all good. So let's jump to the other side. How about being happy? So obviously everyone wants to be happy. Ultimately, I don't think anyone would prefer not to be happy. So being happy is a good thing. You know, there's nothing wrong with being happy. Ultimately, we all want to be happy, content, loved, etc. So being happy wins a thumbs up. So here's the dilemma. Why is being happy and being right two different sides of the coin? Can't you be happy and right? Or possibly. I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but the point I'm making with this whole video is this. If you are really having to hound your point across to prove that you're right, you're kind of arguing and hammering the point across how right you are, ultimately that's not going to make you happy. It's going to sort of cause you stress and upset and maybe sort of off a loved one or a friend, because you're so determined to be right that you end up this sort of weird situation where you're hammering the point home, almost to the point of you're missing the whole point that you're trying to make. You're just so obsessed now with being right, nobody ends up happy. You don't end up happy, they don't end up happy, but you're right. So no, that's a thumbs down, because what's the point? Yes, you're right, great, well done, have a gold star, but really, what have you achieved? You're right, that's it. No one's happy. So out of the two, ultimately, it's, you know, being happy is a goal, but unfortunately, so often we find it so important, and some reason for importance that we have to be right, rather than just being happy and letting it go. And this happens all the time in life. We always have to prove our point, particularly in relationships with our partner. You're going to now prove that you did, and make sure that everyone knows that you're right. But great, well done, you're right. But in the process of doing that, everyone's unhappy. No wins. And I'm ridiculously guilty for this many times over, even though I know this kind of rule that this is. I don't know if you can put rule that with only one, but it doesn't really work. But yeah, I'm very guilty of this, and I've got better and I'm getting better at it. It's just sort of recognizing that really it doesn't matter. One thing I'm been heavily guilty of, and it's so ridiculous, hands up, and I've been chastised for it many times, is in traffic when there's sort of two lanes going into one, I just previously just won't give in, because that person may be in the wrong, but I just no, I'm going to keep going, and you know, prove that I'm in the right by they have to go behind me, where potentially is also dangerous. Both cars could hit each other, causing damage, in which case I'm not happy, they're not happy. It's just, there's no upside to it at all apart from being right. And then when you realise how much that is, it really does not matter who's right, then everyone's a lot happier. Well, literally everyone's happier, because there's no kind of sort of problem. You just give in and you go, you know, okay, let them go. Same sort of thing, someone cuts you up on the road. It's like I mentioned this the other day, someone cuts you up, it's how you react to it. But you know, if someone cuts you up, yes, they've done a stupid thing, maybe a dangerous thing, but then you take in extra effort and stress and hassle and possibly dangerous activity or actions to then prove that they're in the wrong and you're right. What happens? You know, you end up all stressed. The person in the car with you is probably stressed or maybe scared. The other person in the other car is going to get stressed or scared. Again, who's winning? Nobody's winning. It's ridiculous. So, bring us back to the original question. Do you want to be right or happy? Well, yes, we want to be right, but at what cost? I think that's the biggest question here. At what cost do you want to be right? Being right is completely fine in its own situation, but being right at the cost of happiness, not just your happiness, everyone's happiness, is literally ridiculous. From the original question about whether it's better to be right or happy, being right is great, but certainly not at the expense of being happy. So the full answer to the question is it better to be right than happy? No, it's much better to be happy than right. Give up this kind of false, as I call it, cobweb ego about being right. It really doesn't matter. Concentrate on your happiness and everyone else's happiness, and the world is going to be a much better place because you don't have to prove the point that you're right. If it's something unjust and some person has cut you up or stolen from you or whatever the situation is, if following a course of action to prove you're right is going to end up causing you more stress and unhappiness, ultimately, why bother? You know, and this is supposed to maybe a bit of a controversial point when it comes to if someone's sort of done something illegal and should you take them to court and should you sue them and that sort of thing. But really, if that course of action is going to cost you more time, stress, hassle and upset, at the end of it, yes, you may be right, but you're actually going to be worse off because you'll be, you know, really, really sick of it. And so you've got to ask yourself the question, is it better to draw a line under it and go, yep, that's happened, rather than kind of chase the right thing and end up unhappy and, you know, worse off than the original kind of crime. So it's something to, you know, bear in mind. And I have personally experienced in this. A few years ago I had a flat or an apartment, you say in the US, and I had someone in there renting, and pretty much for 2 years they didn't pay any rent. And it was a long, huge, horrible case of eventually got them out, and ultimately they owed me thereabouts of £18,000. What's that, about $22,000? And I could go after him for the money. I know he hasn't got the money, but all of the court case, all of the hassle and all of that, one, it's unlikely I'm going to get the money, but also just the hassle and legal fees and all the just bringing everything, all the problems up again, it's going to cause me more stress and hassle. So I've just decided, draw a line under it. It's in the past, you know, I've learned things from it, and move on. And you may sort of say, well, that's a bit gullible, you should be chasing it. And maybe I should, maybe not, who knows. But I'm happier letting it go because it was such a horrible time. So, you know, I do know, and I have kind of made my own experience around this point. So ultimately, as I said, it's 1,000,000% better to be happy than right. This is a bit of a short version of this whole topic, but it's quite a deep topic, and it's an interesting one when you start to think about it. And the initial gut feeling is generally, you know, no, I want to be right, but just step back for it. Like always, stop, breathe, think. What's the best outcome? Is the best outcome me chasing and proving I'm right, or being happy? And ultimately, I think you'll find it's being happy. If you got some value from this, I'd love you to leave a comment to see, you know, your thoughts, your opinions on, do you think it's better to be right or happy? If you haven't already, I'd love you to subscribe. It means the world to me when you do. And hit that bell notification so you know when I release a new video. And smash that like button till it's blue in the thumb, if you know what I mean. But for now, have a good day, evening, take care, bye bye.